This guy had a long, rough life. Welcome to my channel. My name is London, and for Halloween this month, we are in October, I thought it would be kind of a fun idea to kind of change up my content a little bit and do a true crime video every Thursday up until Halloween. So I've been loving watching these videos, especially from Bailey Sarian, so I was inspired to do this with a little bit of a twist. So I'm going to do everything sort of Texas based. If you guys don't know, I am born and raised in Texas, so all of these videos for this month on Thursdays are going to be all Texas themed, kind of true crime, serial killers, murders kind of thing. We're gonna see how this goes because I'm not really good at this. So with the true crime story for today, it doesn't start off in Texas, but it does end in Texas. So it's still Texas themed, but this one has a lot of information on it. Today we're going to be focusing on Henry Lee Lucas, aka the Confession Killer. I'm going to try and do things while I do makeup. I don't know how well this is going to go. I'm very entertained by these style of videos, so wanted to try it out a little bit, but definitely not my idea at the slightest. But I will be linking down below all of the makeup that I'm using and all of like YouTube videos and stuff if you guys wanted to get more information from this story. But I tried for like a whole week to get all this information for you guys. Let's get on into this. Henry Lee Lucas was born on August 23rd, 1936 in Blacksburg, Virginia, and he did not have a very nice upbringing at all, from what I can gather. He had one full sibling, which was his brother, and then he had 7 half siblings, boys and girls. So both of his parents were very abusive. They were both alcoholics. His mom's name was Viola, and his dad's name was Anderson. Henry's father died in 1950, and it's a little confusing about exactly how he died, because some people say that it was from alcohol, and then other people say that he committed suicide, and then other people was like saying that it was a mix of both, where he was just depressed and alcoholic and made bad decisions, which ultimately ended in his death. But his father is out of the picture by 1950. His mom was very abusive, picked on both the father and Henry. The mom also did some things for people for money. I'm not gonna say what it is because I'm trying not to get demonetized with these videos, but I still wanna talk about it. So you can imagine what I'm trying to say. Very, very crazy stuff. And it gets even worse from there. When Henry was 10 years old, he got stabbed in his eye by his brother Andrew. And his mother, Viola, ignored his eye infection from getting stabbed, and he ultimately lost his eyeball. And he had a lot of rumors going around. I'm not gonna say that it's fact because I don't exactly know like what is fact, because everything that I was reading was kind of up in the air about like some people would say this, some people would say that. But he had a very interesting viewpoint on intercourse, I guess you could say. So I should probably say viewer discretion is advised, but we're keeping it family friendly. We're not going to be using crazy language or anything like that. We're going to try and keep this as PG as possible. We'll see. But he did have rumors of killing animals, and he liked to do things with the animals as well as people after he killed them. So he just what I can't even, it's really hard to put yourself in the mindset of these people, but you know, he's probably seen some crazy stuff, so him doing some crazy stuff didn't really seem that bad. But at 15 years old in 1951 was believed to be his first victim, which was a 17-year-old girl that he picked up a little bit further from where he lived, and he strangled her to death. And he didn't confess about this until 1983. And then 3 years after this happened, he was then sentenced to some jail time for a burglary, and then he was pretty much in and out of jail doing some crazy little things here and there. And then on September 2nd, 1959, he was released from prison and he moved in with his sister. I don't really know how to say this. We're gonna try. Tecumseh, Michigan. Hopefully I said that right. Tecumseh, Michigan is where he moved in with his sister, and then shortly after, his mother and him kind of just like ran into each other from what I can get from it, and his mom was like, yo, you need to come back to Virginia, all of this stuff, and they ended up getting into an argument, and there are rumors saying that she dressed him up as a girl, and I don't really understand. Like, I was reading a lot of this story and I was like, what? What is happening? But him and his mother, Viola, got into an argument. They were both intoxicated from what I found, and the story is a little bit unclear from there, because some of what I've heard is that he stabbed his mom in the neck after she tried to hit him with a broom, and then other sources that I found say that he stabbed her multiple times. So regardless, he stabbed his mom and then did some things to her body. Not gonna say what that was, but you can kind of guess, or you can look into it, figure it out yourself. And then after he murdered his mom and did some inappropriate things, he was sentenced to 20 to 40 years in prison. But then about 10 years into his sentence, he got transferred to the state hospital for the criminally insane, and then got paroled on June 3rd, 1970. And then from there, it's kind of the same kind of thing, just kind of struggling with life, you know. And then in 1976 is where he met his lover companion Otis Toole, and I've heard stories about them two together, which they have their own little killing spree together, but I'm gonna be focusing on mostly Henry's story, so Otis's story together is gonna be cut short since we're mostly focusing on Henry's story. So they met in a soup kitchen in Florida, and they became pretty good friends, to say the least. And they went off on their interesting ways of bonding and killing sprees. And then in 1978, they moved in with Otis's mother and sister. And from there, they kind of did their own stuff. They got jobs. They worked on like roofing people's cars. But Henry fell in love with Otis's 10-year-old niece, and she does have, from what I can find, a mild learning disability. In 1981, Otis's mother and his sister died within a few months of each other. And so Becky, Otis's niece that Henry fell in love with, got sent to a juvenile home for juveniles. And then shortly after, Henry helped Becky escape from this juvenile home, and they both fled to California, and that is where they met the rich family, which kind of cared for them, and they gave them a job to go to Texas to take care of their grandmother, who is Kate Rich, who is 82 years old. And all of this happened pretty close to me, so that's kind of crazy. And while living with Kate Rich, Henry attempted to kind of manipulate Kate into transferring all the welfare money so that he can take control of the accounts, and that he was well suited for all of this stuff. Like, he was gonna take care of all of this stuff, and he's there to take care of her. And then Kate Rich, the lady that they were watching, really enjoyed Becky, kind of had this grandmotherly instinct with her. She did have a bit of learning disability, and just kind of wanted to help. But eventually, well, it's gonna be hard to do. So eventually, Becky gets a bit homesick, and she wants to go back to Florida, and Henry doesn't really want to do that. And so they get into an argument in 1982 on Henry's birthday, August 23rd. Apparently they have been drinking, and they got into this argument where she wanted to go home, and he ended up doing the same thing to her that he did to his mom, which is shocking because this is like the only person that he really loved. Oh, that's so pretty. Ooh, I love this. He stabs her to death. I'm gonna try and talk with my eyes like this. He stabs her to death, does some things to her body, and then starts to chop her up into tiny little pieces. And then he decides to go back to where he was staying, which wasn't with Kate Rich anymore. He was staying at this kind of church place, and he's telling everybody that she just got up and left with this strange truck driver guy and hitchhiked her way pretty much back to Florida because she was homesick, and made up this story, which Miss Kate Rich doesn't believe in the slightest, because she liked and cared for Becky and doesn't believe that that is something that Becky would have done. So a couple weeks after Becky's disappearance, Kate Rich goes and kind of confronts him, and when Kate confronts him, he kills her, does the same thing. He gets arrested on June 3rd, 1983 for being an ex-convict in possession of a handgun. And then a few days after he gets arrested is where he starts to get the name of the confession killer. So on June 15th, he summoned the jailer, and he starts his confession, where he starts to say that he's done some bad things. Well, duh. Duh, you've done some bad things. The heck? And that's where he really starts to get his name, because he starts confessing like crazy. He starts confessing to stuff that they don't really think he could have done, but he still confessed to it because what happened was that he started confessing to around 11 murders, and people started to get pretty interested in what he was confessing to. And so then he starts confessing to upwards of 100 unsolved murders. And so then the Texas Rangers and investigators are giving him case files, giving him private jet rides. He's telling them on things about what happened with him and Otis, and telling him about murders that Otis has been a part of. And Otis was doing some jail time at this time, I believe in Florida. One of the things of his confessions that kind of make him a bit faulty was there was a confession that he made about a murder that took place off of Interstate 35. And if you live in North Texas, then you probably know where 35 is, but it was closer to Denton. And the way he confessed to this murder doesn't really make sense, because there's proof that he actually made it to work in Florida. And they're like, why would you go all the way over here to pick up some random person to murder them, to drive miles and hours to go back and make it to work on time? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. But he was loving this spotlight, and he actually confessed to upwards of 3,000 confessions of just going through everything. And the people that were doing these confessions with him, from my understanding, was they were kind of relieved, because they're like, all right, we got all these cold cases from all these years that are finally getting solved. But in reality, are they really solving any of the actual murders? So now you can kind of see where he got his name of the confession killer, because they got him on private jets, going to Florida, talking to people, interviews with people. He's getting case information to help solve these cold cases. He's kind of like in this spotlight that he was never really in before. And the confessions was estimated to be around 75 to 100 people, and then it escalated to 300 to 600 murders, which then he confessed to upwards of 3,000 confessions for different murders that he did, quote unquote. He got sentenced with all these confessions that he was making. Alright, so I just quickly did the stuff that I couldn't really do while talking, and then I'm just gonna finish up my eyes. But he did get sentenced to everything that he was confessing to, and he did get the death penalty. Oh, and before we talk about the death penalty, in Texas alone, there were 7 murders that he confessed to in just Texas, which is crazy. He got the death penalty, and then while serving on death row, Governor George Bush changed it to life in prison, where he spent the rest of his days, and then he died from natural causes on March 12, 2001. I'm just gonna do a little bottom lash line mascara. So this was a pretty long story to start off with. I just wanted to get my toes in the water to see how this would actually go. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this story of Henry Lee Lucas, otherwise known as the Confession Killer. And he has murdered anywhere between 11 and 3,000 people from what he has confessed to. But if you guys have any comments on this video and how I filmed it, or any ways that I could make this video better for you guys, please leave it down in the comments. I love constructive criticism, so please feel free to do so. This guy had a long, rough life, to say the very least. And again, I'll have everything linked down below for you guys if you want to check out any of the makeup that I use, or if you want to check out any other videos on Henry Lee Lucas. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to watch my last video, I'll have it listed right over here. And then this video will be suggested to you by YouTube, and my face will be right here, so you can click on it and subscribe to my channel.